Quick thank you to the T5 peeps, TheDragon, Datamagnet, Cat Crab Lobster, Dark Machine, Astraya the Dreamer, Mezec, Feudic Jarl, and Casper Arnholtz. Thank you very much. Shadowstalkers, written by IAreGoodAtRighting. I remember the early days of Ferris 3. Life was hard. Surely life isn't supposed to be easy on the burgeoning colony, you might think. To that I say, we had it really hard. Before the hydroponic farms, state-of-the-art cities, and the orbiting solar panels powering the world, we had nothing. It wasn't an official colonization effort by the oligarchy, that's for sure. We were a band of ne'er-do-wells, heretics, and political refugees that couldn't legally be executed. They didn't give us a steady stream of food and supplies, or a means to defend ourselves. Far outside the borders of the oligarchy, they dropped us off, said good luck, and never returned. So yeah, life was hard. On top of the famines, plagues, and general frustration, we had to deal with the Shadow Walkers. At first, they were a myth. Foragers and explorers, whispering tales of glowing eyes, watching the campfires from deep in the forest. Shapes moving from beyond your peripheral vision. That kind of stuff. The people who stayed behind the walls dismissed it as adjusting to colonial life until disappearances started. Hunters would leave camp at noon, promising not to go too far or stay out after dark. They were never heard or seen from again. We were in a bind, to say the least. None of us were farmers before the exile, and that showed after each harvest. So hunting and gathering was essential to survival. Whenever we went to venture into the forest, we went in sizable groups. It was inefficient as a whole howl, and most animals could hear us a mile away. But at least the Shadowstalkers kept clear. Until they didn't. I'll never forget the sight of that morning. The sun balanced atop the horizon, casting long shadows on the trees. I stood atop a palisade at the end of the colony, watching the forest's edge. A group went out last noon, and they were late. The sun set and rose again with no sign of the party, while the leaders quarreled about whether to send a second expedition to look for them. I watched, pray to whoever would listen for them to return. Something approached from inside the wooden depths. I shouted to the village, shouted to the figure in the forest. The party has returned, I said. My peers joined me in watching the spectacle. What came out of the forest was a man, or what was left of him. He huffed towards the village, soaked in blood, head hung low. Our elation died and sank deep into the ground. The gates swung open and the man collapsed inside. Upon examination, we discovered the blood wasn't his. Those who knew him could hardly recognize him when he awoke. He quivered like a prey animal before death. His speech was incomprehensible. Every few seconds his head would jerk back and check for something that wasn't there. It's not like we needed to know what happened to the party. That much was obvious. What we had to find out was how the man escaped. Never in all the Shadow Walker attacks had there been a survivor. How or why did this man make it back to the colony alive and almost intact? The answer came that night in the form of shadows. The bastards followed him right to us. The eyes we swore were myths not long ago stared at us, their white light piercing our souls. Sleek black forms darted in and out of the light, never long enough to get a clear glimpse. I didn't know how many were out there, but if they attacked that night, I doubt the tallest of the walls would have held them back. The colony was under siege by an army of mindless beasts, and there was nothing that we could do to stop them. Death became more and more a reality each day. Some tried to be hopeful, sharpening sticks and forming a wall of spikes outside the palisade. They knew it would never stop the tide of Shadow Walkers, but it looked like something was being done, and it put people at ease. As we waited for the Shadow Walkers to finish us off, a craft descended from the sky. Panic swept the colony, thinking the oligarchy sent soldiers to finish us off after surviving so long. We tilted our heads in confusion when a small ship came in closer and settled down near one of the farms. It was too angular and ugly to be of the oligarchs. The writing on the sites was too foreign. Out of the exit came a gathering of humans. What were they doing here? They were acquired species with short lifespans. Most of the time, they kept to themselves, so the oligarchy ignored them as well. No matter their intention, we were more than happy to welcome them inside the walls. Starvation swept the colony. Food rations were running critically low, but we offered what we could to the visitors. Thankfully, they refused. The humans explained that they were part of a colonial expedition from Earth and didn't realize how small already occupied the planet. We explained our plight, how we were undesirables, how our successful little colony turned into a death trap, the Shadow Walkers and their increasing audacity. The humans listened to our pathetic tale with sympathy and intent. When it was over, we expected the visitors to heed our warning and leave us to our fate on Ferris 3. I still remember the colony's shock when they chose to stay with us. Not only that, but they would trade us food, guns, tools, and technology for land, as if we had control of the planet. I couldn't help but laugh. Naturally, we accepted. The humans stayed the night in case the Shadow Walkers attacked that never came. Then they flew off in the ship. Next afternoon, a ship flew high above the colony and dropped a dozen or so crates on the village green. We swarmed the drop like starving rats when it parachuted to the ground. The humans kept their promise. The guns were several hundred years out of date, and the food tasted like dirt, but not a single colonist complained. The humans were life. The next time the Shadow Walkers came to the village, fire from the magnetic Gaul's weapons scared them off. Sightings became less and less frequent after that. We gained the confidence to send out another party into the woods to scavenge for food. They returned with an impressive haul of meats and fruits. The colony's morale soared. Months turned into years. Years turned into decades. Generations of human lifetimes came and went. The colony became too big for its walls and expanded far beyond what we could have ever hoped for when we arrived. Families grew, farms flourished, new towns formed not far from the first. The Shadowstalkers never left us, but they kept a safe distance with our new weapons. The humans' generous donation we once relied on turned into a mutual trade. Land for technology. It's not like we had much else to give, being cut off from the oligarchy. Eventually we developed a high-speed shuttle system with the help of the human blueprints. The world got smaller. On the anniversary of the human arrival on Ferris 3, celebrated as Salvation Day, our friends across the planet invited us to one of their cities. I was overjoyed to be a part of the first group to make the trip. The shuttle arrived in the human city, now New Perth, and we disembarked. A feeling I haven't felt since before Salvation Day froze my body. Fear. It wasn't the glittering spires taller than anything from our settlement, nor the number of humans packed into the streets around us, but the Shadow Walkers. They traveled the streets in broad daylight, mouths the size of our heads and eyes as intense as the sun. The other visitors joined me in my fear. Our old enemy walked the streets leashed to the humans, and we left our weapons at home. Our human guide tried to explain. Advanced domestication were the words she used. I didn't understand what it meant at the time. The concept sounded so foreign. Shadow Walkers were born to kill. I couldn't wrap my mind around keeping them as pets. Guard dogs, hunting dogs, service dogs, companion dogs. It seemed like they were used everywhere, though she never explained what a dog was. A Shadowstalker and its human approached a mother and her child down the road. I tried to avert my eyes, but something inside me forced me to watch. This is it, I thought. I was about to see a wild animal turn a child into red paste. The two groups met. My heart stopped beating when the child extended a hand to the Shadowstalker's jaws. The beast sniffed his hand and licked it. The two adults laughed, and the Shadowstalker's handler patted its head. I couldn't help but wonder how much land we'd have to give in exchange for advanced domestication. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.